Hey everyone, it's the Kitchen Table Magician, and this is episode 3 of Building Blocks. Today we're going to talk about blue. Blue, in my opinion, is the hardest color to really learn how to play properly and learn how to work it. Blue is very, very good at stalling up your opponents and just maintaining a very grindy and slow board state until you can kind of take control of the game mid to late game and get your win conditions in. Blue is very, very good at playing evasive creatures that are hard to deal with, and just shutting down whatever your opponent's strategy is going to be through counter magic and things of that sort. So today we're going to look at blue cards, and everything in here is budget. There are some rares, but this is some stuff to look for if you're new to the game and don't know where to begin. This is going to be for you. Okay, so first things first, Counterspell. This is the absolute very first blue card you need to find a playset of. It was printed in all of the early sets, core sets and all the early sets, and then it was dropped in favor of Wizards thought it was too efficient for 2 blues, so they started printing other variations that costed 3 and 4. Did the same thing, maybe threw you a little perk here and there. But then it got a reprint, finally, in Eternal Masters. So this is the Eternal Masters version, but you can pick up older versions too. And yes, they're gonna probably cost you $1 a piece, 50 cents to $1 a piece. But I'm telling you, this is the #1 card you need to get. Secondly, behind that is probably negates. Get yourself some negates. This is also very efficient, and the nice thing about negate is it only requires 1 blue, still 2 mana, so you can run this in multicolored decks and still have some really good control. It's a little bit more conditional because you cannot counter creatures with it, but that's okay. What you're usually trying to do is counter what your opponent's other strategies are anyway. And so, like I said before, Wizards was printing 3 color variations that did silly things, and then finally in Time Spiral, they just did the flat up 3 mana counter target spell. That's it, and final. So if you're having a hard time finding counter spells, cancel is a fine place to start as well. And actually, a lot of times I'll run actually a playset of each in my control decks, in my blue decks. So I'll have 8 just solid hard counter spells. So that's counter magic and where to begin there. The other thing blue does very, very well is just maintain board states. And so if your opponent's creatures do get through, blue is very, very good at bouncing things back to their opponent's hand so that you can counter them. Again, everything I'm showing you here is at instant speed, because when you're playing blue, again, 90% of what you are going to be doing is going to be happening during your opponent's turn. You're going to be reacting and responding to what your opponent is trying to do for probably the first third to half of the game before you get your win conditions and things into play. So these are all fine examples of good blue bounce spells. Boomerang is the oldest. Simply 2 blue, return any permanent to its owner's hand. Blue and 1, this is Peel from Reality from Ravnica. Return a creature you control and a target creature you don't control to their owner's hands. So this is nice because this actually allows you to not only bounce one of your opponents, but also save one of yours. If they're getting targeted by something, you can put yours back in your hand at instant speed too. Repulse is a little more. Return a creature to its owner's hand and draw a card in response as well. So, and that was from Invasion Block. But these are examples of what you're looking for, all at instant speed. And then blue is also really good at locking down boards. Some of my favorite ways to do that are with Propaganda. This is an enchantment. You'll want to run 4 of these in the deck. Each turn, each creature cannot attack you unless its controller pays an additional 2 for that creature. So ideally you're running 4 of these in the deck. If you get 2 or 3 of these out, it really locks down your opponent's ability to be able to attack you. I kind of call this building a pillow fort. Sleep is another good spell for just disrupting your opponent's tempo and when they're trying to attack you, so that you can stay alive and get your deck together doing what it wants to do. So these are at sorcery and enchantment speed, but they really are really good at locking down and messing with your opponent's tempo and board state. Another thing that blue is really, really, really good at is drawing extra cards. When drawing extra cards, you want to do it at instant speed. You want to do this at the end of your opponent's turn so that you have all your mana available. If you have extra mana that you haven't used to play counter spells during your opponent's turn, then use it to draw cards at the end. So Una's Grace is a really good one, 3 mana, draw a card, but it has Retrace, allowing you to discard lands and draw cards. You can use it over and over. Inspiration is another one that I use a lot. 4 mana, draw 2 cards at instant speed. And I think my favorite actually is Accumulated Knowledge. And this is 2 mana, draw a card, then draw cards equal to the number of accumulated knowledges in all graveyards. You're going to run a full playset of Accumulated Knowledge. All of these can be picked up for almost nothing. And it's just a great way to get to what you need to get to. And blue does it really, really well. Back to board state. Blue is also really good at stealing things from your opponent. Let's say your opponent has got a creature down, you were unable to counter it or react to it in some other way. Control Magic is the oldest way to do this. This is a revised edition, so it's a little wordy, but it literally reads enchant creature or you control target creature, period. So you can steal a creature from your opponent. A little bit cleaner version of this. This is a 7th edition Confiscate, 6 mana. You can steal any permanent, not just a creature. You can take anything. So blue is also really, really, really good at that. Again, Pillow Forting, Fog Banks, and Guard Gamazoas are 2 of my favorite creatures for building the pillow forts to go along with your propagandas and sleeps. These fly, they have Defender, they take no combat damage, so they can sit and block anything all day long. It makes it very difficult for your opponent to get to you. So now that you've done all of that and you've been doing your counter spells and putting up your pillow fort and drawing your extra cards, now you're finally ready to put on finishing touches and go after your opponent. Blue is really good at evasion, so we're going to get into some other creatures now. I look for creatures that have flash and flying, if at all possible, because again, if you've got the mana left over at the end of your opponent's turn and you haven't had to counter anything and you've got the mana, then you can flash a creature into play at the end of their turn. Or as a response to your opponent attacking you, you can flash in a blocker. So some of these are some of my favorite. A couple of them from Lorwyn. Pestermite is probably my favorite because when it comes into play, it also taps a creature if you want it to, or untaps a creature. So I usually use it to tap a creature. So you with Pestermite can take 2 of your opponent's attacking creatures out of the equation with 1 card for a combat, because you can tap one and block the other, block another. So Pestermite is really good. From Time Spiral, Crook Claw Transmuter, 3/1 flying and flash. You can switch some power and toughnesses around. But anyway, you get the idea. You're looking for this kind of stuff. You want to be able to play it when it's the most convenient for you, not at sorcery speed if you can help it. So then you're looking for the big finisher. So then in blue, you want some big finishers, and you're looking for things that your opponent are really going to have a hard time dealing with. And 2 of my favorites, and these are all dirt cheap. These are going to be rares now. Sphinx of Dwar Isle, 5/5 flying and shroud. This is hard to deal with. It flies, it's big, your opponent can't target it with anything. It will win you late games. And the same thing with Inkwell Leviathan. This is one of my other favorite blue just finisher type of cards. So these are mid to late game. You've locked down the board, you've got your opponent completely under control and in your submission now, and now you just drop the finisher and clean up the game. Inkwell Leviathan, Island Walk, Trample, and again Shroud. Your opponent can't target this with anything. It's big, it's going to get through. Eventually it's just going to beat your opponent down if they can't find some way to deal with it. So that's kind of blue in a nutshell, things to look for, and a little bit about blue philosophy and how to play. And thanks for watching.